Hello everyone, we're First to Market, presenting Hulu to you tonight. We focused our research on the sales department, and by doing so, we conducted interviews of account executive, account manager, and account coordinator. In addition to our interviews, we also had surveys that the sales department filled out, and we're going to share our findings with you tonight. Thank you.
What we found at Hulu was a fun environment filled with young, passionate, creative people. Every aspect of the firm emphasized the fact that it was a young tech company and not some corporate megalith. What we'll show you tonight is that everything from the physical work environment to the happy hours and the social functions to even creating their own language created this innovative culture, which could be a defensible competitive advantage a la Southwest or Zappos. Unfortunately, it has to be balanced with some sense of organizational structure in order to bring together all the pieces of the business to work together in concert, similar to a conductor pulling together the various sections of an orchestra to make beautiful music. Speaking of music, we'd like to show you some of the Hulu employees in their work environment.
Hulu's unique culture is truly its competitive advantage. And as you just saw in the video, that's where the Hulu headquarters are. And it really wouldn't be uncommon to see the senior financial analyst or, sorry, I'm out of breath, or the VP of talent recruitment to really break into a song and dance in the middle of the day. Hulu also has a very special vocabulary and language. They call their employees hooligans, and they call their new hires newligans. So to touch upon their physical environment, it's pretty interesting that they actually don't have offices for their executives. They just throw everybody literally into this huge room with a sea of desks where even their CEO just sits in the middle among his fellow hooligans. So another thing about the office is that there are arcade games everywhere. They have ping pong tables. They have a kegerator. They have fully stocked fridges, all in the name of stimulating this environment that fosters creativity and fun. So who's in charge of all this fun? Something called the TAO department, and that stands for Talent and Organization. And basically, it's essentially an HR department. They really care for their employees, and the TAO department is responsible for institutionalizing the innovation and the fun. So for example, every other Friday at 4 p.m., they have something called a wine down, which is what we all just experienced, so I hope you guys enjoyed your wine. They have wine and they have beer, and it's time for them to just hang out. Another really big event that they do is an annual Hulu Hack Day. It's this huge festival where they have sumo wrestling, they have face painting, they bring in massage therapists, and they have all this great food. And the purpose of it is to set aside time for all the hooligans to get together and to brainstorm, to think about how can they improve the work environment, how can they improve communication across different departments, but most importantly, it's about inspiring the hooligans to think of the next big idea.
So as Marissa mentioned, Hulu is totally awesome and totally fun, but where their primary weaknesses are at is around structure, around their organizational communication. So the first thing that we noticed was really this kind of cult-like following at Hulu, where people had a hard time describing anything negative about the organization, and even in the interviews, we really had a hard time making them say anything they could even improve upon. The second is that there's a cultural norm that if you want something, anything like even a promotion or a review, that you have to be proactive about it because you're an adult. So that works for some people, but in the anonymous surveys we saw that for others, they really were lacking that structure and needed something more. The third thing that we saw was that while there's all of this innovation prompted by things like the Hulu Hack Days, the innovation was kind of outpacing the organizational structure to support it. So sales, specifically within the sales department, people were pitching products that were no longer available, or the infrastructure wasn't supporting it, etc.
So we have a couple of recommendations, because basically Hulu has done a great job of planning their culture, but they haven't done a great job of planning their organizational structure around communication as they've grown. So number one, we're going to implement a process for people to be encouraged to talk about what's not working. We're going to overhaul their incentives plan to really force people to, come up with these new ideas to really improve Hulu and come up with the next big idea. Number two, we found that employees were really missing the structure of formal reviews. We're going to implement a regular review system. Number three, we're going to put in a project manager to help with the sales division, because right now the communication between the three divisions isn't flowing, and so a project manager will be able to open up and create that flow of information in a way that no other department, or I guess the flat organization, is not working right now. And then the fourth recommendation is to make sure that our recommendations aren't changing the current culture, making sure we're adding a little bit of structure without changing what they have. And so we're going to track these with anonymous surveys quarterly, and then introduce a steering committee that will actually analyze the data to go through and make sure that they are on track each time.
Thank you for your time. We'd like to
Very
open the floor to
good.
questions.
Okay, we're tight tonight, so we're gonna go right to the questions they'll ask you later. We'll go right to feedback, so, what do you wanna say?
Well, for one, I appreciate your commitment. Honestly, though.